Today, we are diving into a story that has it all. We're talking big-time entertainment, we're talking corporate law, and we're talking about the huge, ongoing debate over what you can and can't say online. This whole thing involves a star from The Mandalorian, a social media post that went viral, a very public firing, and then a lawsuit backed by a billionaire that ended with a reversal that nobody saw coming. So let's get into how this all went down.
To really get what makes this story so wild, you just have to look at these two statements side by side. On the left, you've got Disney's Lucasfilm back in 2021. Their words, abhorrent and unacceptable. Pretty clear, right? But then, fast forward to 2025, and you get the statement on the right. They're looking forward to working with her again. I mean, that is a complete 180.
So the big question is, how? How on earth did we get from a word like abhorrent all the way to talking about a future collaboration? That is the incredible story we are going to break down right now. To make sense of the settlement, we've got to rewind. We need to go back to 2021 and look at exactly what happened that led to Gina Carano getting fired from one of the biggest shows on the planet. So here's the quick rundown. In 2019, Carano shows up as Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, and people love her. She's a fan favorite right out of the gate. But by 2020, things start getting a little rocky. She's getting backlash for posts about things like masks during the pandemic and claims of voter fraud. And then comes the tipping point in February 2021. She shares one particular post, and the fallout is immediate. Lucasfilm fires her, and she's also dropped by her talent agency, UTA. Just like that. So, what was in the post that lit the fuse? Well, she shared some text that seemed to draw a comparison between the way Jewish people were treated by their neighbors in Nazi Germany and the current political climate in the US. It ended with this question: how is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Lucasfilm's reaction? It was fast, and they did not hold back. Their official statement called her posts abhorrent and unacceptable, and they were very specific. They framed the problem not as a matter of politics, but as something that was, in their words, denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities. The firing was swift, and their reason for it at the time seemed crystal clear. But the story was far from over, not by a long shot. In 2024, this whole thing escalated from a PR nightmare into a full-on legal war, and a very powerful new player decided to step onto the battlefield. So Carano fired back. She took Disney to court, suing them for wrongful termination and discrimination. She was seeking damages of at least $75,000, but get this, she also asked the court to force Lucasfilm to give her the role of Cara Dune back. And this right here, this boils the entire case down to its core. On one side, Carano's claim was simple: I was fired because of my political opinions. On the other side, Disney's defense was built on its own First Amendment right to not have its brand associated with her speech. It was this classic showdown, an employee's freedom of expression up against a company's right to protect its own image. Now, from Carano's point of view, this wasn't just about one post. When she announced the lawsuit on X, she said she believed she was being hunted down because I was not in line with the acceptable narrative of the time. And here's where the story takes that major turn. Carano wasn't fighting a giant like Disney all by herself. Her lawsuit was being paid for by Elon Musk, the owner of X. This was him making good on a public promise he'd made to cover the legal bills for anyone who claimed they were fired or treated unfairly because of something they said on his platform. So all of this was setting the stage for an epic courtroom drama. You had Disney, you had Carano, you had Musk, but instead of a long, messy trial, we got something almost nobody predicted: a settlement. And with it, a completely different tone from Disney. On August 7th, 2025, they jointly announced that the lawsuit had been resolved. The case was being dismissed. And just like that, the fight was over. And this brings us right back to that shocking reversal from the beginning. This is the full statement from Disney and Lucasfilm. That language of abhorrent and unacceptable, it's just gone. Instead, they're praising her, saying she was always well-respected, and then they drop the bombshell that they're looking forward to finding ways to work together again.
Carano had her own take on it. She put out a statement on X calling the deal the best outcome for all parties involved. And she even threw in a little Star Wars reference, saying she hoped this brings some healing to the Force.
But crucially, she made a point to thank one person in particular. In her statement, she gave her deepest, most heartfelt gratitude to Elon Musk, and she called his funding of her lawsuit a good Samaritan deed. This directly tied the outcome of her case to his very significant and very public intervention. All right, so the legal fight is over. So why are we still talking about it? Well, because the ripples from this one settlement go way beyond just one actress and one Hollywood studio. This is a big deal.
This whole case really taps into some major conversations we're all having right now. For one, it shows the incredible influence a wealthy individual can have just by funding lawsuits that line up with their own beliefs. That could really change how corporations deal with what people call cancel culture. It also comes at a time when companies are rethinking their DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. And ultimately, this settlement just sets a huge new landmark in that constant tug of war between what an employee can say and what an employer feels it needs to do to protect its brand.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really provocative question. We don't know the exact private details of the settlement, but the public impact is undeniable. So what kind of precedent does a high-profile reversal like this really set? What does it mean for the future relationship between all of us, our jobs, and the things we choose to say out loud? That is a question we'll all be watching for the answer to.